Welcome to the Adult Basic Skills Professional Development video series. Throughout our productions, we are committed to excellence in adult education and professional development in basic skills instruction. The goal of this video series is to improve the effectiveness and quality of instruction through focused professional development.
During this time together, we will take the assessment procedure a step further by discussing the process involved in administering an informal reading inventory.
One thing I'd like to do is to be able to help my kids, with their homework.
How many kids do you have?
3.
How old are they?
18 months, 10 and 11.
Okay. Boy, that's quite a nice...
Our major goal in this step is to encourage the student to become a partner in the assessment process. We want the adult student to learn to monitor his or her own performance. We ask the student to help us find out what he or she can do with ease, what is slightly difficult, and what is too hard.
Well, now some of the kinds of things that we'll do today is I want to find out what's kind of a struggle for you. So I'll be asking you to do some things and ask you to look at some things that might be kind of hard. If you could just give me a guess at those things, it'd really help me get some idea of what you seem to get right every time and what's a little fuzzy and just what's too hard right now.
Okay.
Because in trying to help put together a good plan to help you improve your reading, we don't want to frustrate you. I've just talked to many people when I was a kid coming up. I had a lot of frustration. Don't need any more of that. We want to be sure we plan it comfortably so that you can do things and do them real well.
I appreciate that.
And the way we do that now is that this first experience might not be all that pleasant, okay? Because I'm going to ask you to do some things that are a little hard. And I want you to read some words for me. That'll give me some idea of how well you can just sort of recognize words. Then from there, we'll probably go to some paragraphs to let you read a paragraph or so for me to get an idea of how well you read sentences and how well you remember what you've read when you get through with reading the material.
Okay.
So the first thing that we'll start with.
To help us determine the student's level of independent and instructional reading, we must first give the student a word list to be read silently. Ask the student to put a check mark next to each word he or she instantly recognizes. Underline each word the student must think about for a second or two to figure out, and circle words which the student does not know. If you think the learner will have problems remembering 3 things to do, just have the student circle words that he or she does not know. This will be enough information to give us insight as to what the student can do and what they need to learn. Based on words which the student can instantly recognize and figure out in a second or two, select paragraphs of equal or lesser difficulty to determine independent and instructional reading levels.
What I want to do then is have you read some for us, okay? This is a paragraph about 2 people who are going to be shopping. And their names are Bob and Sue. So we'll start off with this particular story. And again, when you get through with this, I'll take this and I'll ask you some questions about the selection you've just read. Okay? Let's read this, please.
The following criteria should be considered when determining a student's independent reading level. Number 1. The student should demonstrate at least 90% comprehension by retelling significant information from a selection or by answering questions. Number 2, the student should instantly and accurately pronounce 98 to 100% of the words in the passage. Number 3, the student should read the material with ease, free from tension or frustration. When determining a student's instructional reading level, the following criteria should be considered. Number 1, the student should demonstrate at least 70% comprehension by retelling significant information from a passage or by answering questions. Number 2, the student should instantly and accurately 5% of the words in the passage. Number 3, again, the student should read the material with ease, free from tension or frustration.
Fish. 2. cat they ran after will have the big dog.
As instructors of adult basic skills, it's our job to help our students become more confident and competent. We want our students to work in materials where they recognize at least 95% word identification and comprehend at least 70% of the questions about the material. Anything less is considered frustration reading level and should be avoided as much as possible. There are 4 types of errors to be aware of while administering the informal reading inventory or during the monitoring of regular reading activities. The first kind of mistake to indicate is a substitution. In a substitution, the learner substitutes a different word for the one that is printed. When this happens, simply write the substituted word above the word missed. The next mistake is an omission. When the learner omits a word or leaves off part of a word, circle the word or part that the student does not say. The third kind of mistake is an insertion. Many times the learner will insert a word or phrase into the sentence. When this happens, put a caret between the words where the insertion occurred and write the word or phrase above the line. The fourth mistake is a long pause with no attempt to attack the word. Many times the learner will not recognize a word or even know how to pronounce it. When this happens, pronounce the word for the learner after 5 seconds. This mistake is easily recorded by writing a P above the word that was pronounced for the learner.
Bob.
Bob and
Sue.
Sue like to fish.
This takes a little practice, so don't be discouraged if you miss a few mistakes at first. Let's review what we have talked about so far. Here are the mistakes that we want to look for when administering an informal reading inventory. Be aware of a substitution. The learner substitutes a different word for the one that is printed. An omission occurs when the learner leaves off an ending or part of a word. The learner inserts a word or phrase into the sentence. The student pauses with no attempt to pronounce the word. Let's practice checking an informal reading inventory together. Our student's name is Jimmy. He's 31 years old and works as a plumber's helper. He is a single parent with 3 young children. His mother helps his children with their homework and also serves as his major encourager. However, it's his goal to learn how to read so he can help his children with their schoolwork. He would also like to become a plumber. His interests are stock car racing and TV. Let's practice checking an informal reading inventory together.
All right, let me give you, the next thing we want to do then is have you read some for us, okay? This is a paragraph about 2 people who are going to be shopping, and their names are Bob and Sue. So if we'll start off with this particular story. And again, now when you get through with this, I'll take this and I'll ask you some questions about the selection you just read. Okay? Let's read this, please.
Okay.
That's Bob.
Bob and
Sue.
Sue have to get a
Car.
A car. The old
car
will not run. They have a big dog. The dog likes to bark. In the cat
Sue?
Sue liked to fish. 2. The cat they ran after will have the big dog.
Sue?
Sue got it to be dog. Bob was a red cat.
Okay.
Now you may see how well you did by using the answer key found in your materials. We hope this has been helpful in introducing you to the informal reading inventory.